Clinton. I am a US IMG and your Costa Rican ambassador for the greatest page out there. So you match in the program of your dreams called Match a Resident. So now I'll go one by one into the most common questions you might encounter during your interview. And let's see how I'll tackle or I would tackle these questions. Me know what you think about it. So question number one is tell us about yourself. So, okay, I am a US IMG. I was born and raised in Costa Rica, where I underwent medical school, and after that, have experienced a journey towards resolving my economic hardships and being able to apply to the program of my dreams, which is your program. But in order to get there, my economic situation had to be dealt with first. This has led me go on to experience approximately 15 different job opportunities, which have been very diverse in nature and very enriching for my skill set overall. And they include a cardiology residency that I recently completed, and as well, I have been able to practice, at least observing your US healthcare system. That is question number one. Question number two is, why did you choose this specialty? Okay, so at first I wasn't that sure if I wanted internal medicine because I liked everything I got my hands on during medical school. But once I was given the chance to choose a specialty, I wrote down on a piece of paper which were the possible specialties I would choose from. I remember that day and I wrote on that paper internal medicine, cardiology, endocrinology, dermatology, and pathology. So as you know, I was all over the place and I really had an appreciation for each of them. In the end, I chose cardiology. And during my cardiology practice, the first 2 years of it were in internal medicine. And this is the moment in time where I have felt the most fulfilled during my residency preparation because I like seeing the human body as a whole and being able to talk about subjects during the morning, sodium during the afternoon, about the glucose, and then about the pituitary gland. And eventually, all these things add up into one single pathology. That's what I like to do. And this is the greatest challenge I find. And I like those challenges. So that's why I chose internal medicine for sure. Question number three. Why are you interested in this program? Okay, so this program is very appealing to me because I have one of my best friends practice or prepared in your program, prepared in internal medicine, and today he is one of the most renowned physicians in the critical care specialty in the United States. This person is Dr. Gutierrez, and both of us share similar traits and values. So I know that if he got this sort of preparation and he has become the best version he can, I can also get to where I want to get to through your program. Another reason is because I've practiced in resource limited scenarios where we usually don't have the possibility of using first line treatments. There are many treatments we have to resort to second or third line. I know that in your environment, I am going to be able to abide to the guidelines and make the best out of every patient encounter. And the third reason is that the location of your program is a place I have to like because I'll be there at least for 3 years or even more. So I know I can fall in love with your city because it offers a lot of different opportunities to relax once I get out of the hospital. Question number four. Tell us about a time when you experienced conflict and how you resolved it. Okay, so I believe the most important thing we can do is try to avoid conflict in the first place. But if we encounter conflict, of course, we have to do something about it. So I'm just remembering what the great masters in martial arts say. They say that if you can run, run. So what I prefer to do is to avoid conflict. Who said this? A Navy SEAL called Joko Willink. He is a tough man. He probably won't back down of anyone. That's what you would think, but that's his recommendation. So, number one is avoid conflict. How do I try to avoid conflict? Okay, so when I was in my cardiology residency in my first year, I knew that my workday would finish at 4 p.m. It was 3:50 p.m. and a higher up resident who was going to be on the night shift that day and who was in charge of taking over after 4 p.m. told me I was the one in charge of the hospitalization of three different patients that were coming in the afternoon through the outpatient setting. I knew it wasn't my task to work on these notes for these patients and see if everything was well with them because I knew that my workday was until 4 p.m. But I decided to avoid conflict. So I did the notes for every one of these patients. I had to stay a couple more hours, but I avoided the conflict. So that's what I prefer doing to avoid the conflict. If I'm faced with a conflict, I'll have to deal with it. But when you can avoid it, try doing so. So, question number 5. What is your most. Oh, tell us about a patient you had trouble caring for. Okay, so when I was rotating during my residency preparation in infectious disease department, there was a patient that had 4 hospitalizations that same year. It had HIV, had AIDS defining illness, and had passed through a very burdensome uh, situations in the hospital. And the nurse team told me that he didn't want to speak to anyone, that he wouldn't speak with myself. So if I had to do anything, that I would talk to them, to the nursing team, and they would deal with it because the patient didn't want to talk. I was in charge of the night shift that day with around 30 to 40 patients under my supervision or care, and the nursing team told me this patient's blood pressure was lowering. So what did I do? I went and read through his whole file. I wanted to understand his situation and understand where he was coming from before talking to him. Second of all, I didn't leave this in the hands of the nursing team. I wanted to be part of it, be proactive. So I tried to talk to the patient. And of course, he was very aversive and was fed up with people trying to talk to him and all these um, different interventions that were recommended for him. So I tried to be polite. I tried to be empathetic. So I tried to listen him out. And this patient actually started talking to me. And in the end, he wanted to talk to me and not other personnel. And he let me take his vital signs. And eventually, I placed that night a central venous catheter right here, a subclavian catheter. And that led us to initiate vasopressors and um, suppress the possibility of him passing out that night. So that was a difficult patient, and I dealt with it just by showing empathy and by trying my best. So, next question is what is your most memorable experience from rotations? So one of my most memorable experiences from rotations is when I rotated in hospital of Alajuela, being in charge of a inpatient setting with 25 to 30 patients. And I'll give you a little context. So I was rotating in Alajuela as a resident, but I was under supervision from my cardiologist, which was a team of 4 cardiologists. But during that moment in time, the cardiology, there was a lot of conflict in the cardiology higher ups. And instead of being 4 cardiologists, there were only 2. And those 2 cardiologists were in charge of all these specialized studies for these patients, which meant that my responsibility went up to a certain extent that I was the primary provider for them in practice. So I had to deal with 25 to 30 patients with 2 to 3 interns, which were last year medical students, because in Costa Rica, last year medical student is the name we give to the intern. So I learned about my organizational skills, how I have evolved them through time. I also learned about my leadership and my love for medicine, because this implied that many times I left the hospital at 7 or 8 p.m. and no one knew. The cardiologist many times didn't even know I was leaving the hospital at 7 p.m., but I was doing this because I wanted to finish all the tasks of the day, and I felt this as my obligation. So it was very memorable for me and has shown me what I'm made of. So let's go on to the next question. Um, what do you want to do after residency? After residency, I am still not sure. I know I want to be a hospitalist over primary care provider, but I am not sure if I want to go into a fellowship. So I understand that you might think that I want to go into cardiology because I have cardiology experience and have completed a residency in it, but that's not the case. As I explained, I love all internal medicine. I want to do, if I go into a fellowship, it might be cardiology or endocrinology. A third place could be related to sports medicine. What is my plan? My plan is to, independently of going into a fellowship or not, I will work on the basis of health, which are preventive medicine. That is my great interest as of now, which is preventing things until we have to go on to placing stents on patients and doing third line therapy or palliative medicine. Okay, so next question. What are your strengths? Okay, so I believe my number one would be my experience. I already experienced a residency before. I know what it's like, I know how it feels, and I know what you need to go through it. And I'm asking for more. So that's a positive sign. My second strength is I'm impeccable with my word. So if I tell you that I will do something, I will do it. If you, so you can trust me. That's important. Number three is I am, yeah, I am honest. We can put that one in the second one. And number three is I always try to do my best. So in every interaction, I want you, the patient, whoever I'm talking with, to improve from that interaction. I don't want to just benefit myself. I want the other person as well to improve from the interaction. So I'll think it through and I'll give you my best version. Let's see what is the next question. What are your weaknesses? So one of my weaknesses is my English fluency, because as you can see, I have an accent that isn't that is Costa Rican. I learned English. I actually learned English before I learned Spanish, but I learned Spanish because Spanish is our official language in Costa Rica. And due to me using almost 24/7 the Spanish language, my English has become a little rusty. But I have been working on this on a daily basis. That is why I am practicing right in front of you right now. I practice in the mirror. I upload educational videos. I talk to friends in English, and I talk to myself in English. So I believe I am improving this at a fast pace, and I'll be ready for match day. My second weakness is that in the past, I didn't have any organizational skills. I went through medicine, loving everything I read, and I just paid attention and went home and studied, and I had no difficulty getting great grades during medicine. But after medicine came residency. I had to make time for publications, for talking with patients, for talking for academic lectures, for shifts that were 36 hours long. There is where I learned that calendars are important. And from then on, I started to work on to-do lists. For example, these papers are to-do lists. I also worked on calendars. I have 2 calendars that I cross-check things off them. And I am much more organized, and I am working on that on a daily basis. And number 3 is setting a boundary between personal life and private life. because in the past, I think I like medicine so much that I would go on these 36-hour shifts and get home and think on summarizing an article and uploading it to YouTube. So I noticed that this isn't the best way to go. I noticed that sometimes, in order to appreciate medicine to the fullest, you also have to be able to detach for a while from medicine. And that's what I've been working on. And that's why I am enjoying more of 100% involved of medicine when I'm in medicine and enjoying other activities when I'm out of medicine. Okay, so next question. Why should we choose you? So I understand this all summarizes into this question. The reason I'm sitting here today is why you should choose me over all the very well qualified applicants you are seeing um, on a daily basis. So I I believe in myself, but that isn't enough for you to believe in myself. So, what do I bring to the table? I believe I bring to the table a cultural diversity that is important in order for expansion of new ideas and for growth. I also bring to the table experience, and I've worked on this experience. I am a much higher up. I am levels above where I was 5 to 6 years ago. I have grown from every experience and made out of the best out of every experience. So I believe I bring this experience in a positive manner to your program. And as well, I believe that I compete against myself. I have matured enough throughout my experience to learn that I have to compete against myself. And when I do so, it is hard to not um, not create a good impact in the environment you're at. So yeah, I have other reasons, but I think three are enough. Just let me know if you would like me to mention a couple more. And the next question is, what are your interests outside of medicine? So outside of medicine, my interests are to uh, work on a healthy lifestyle in general. So I'm not sure if we could mention that as talk about that as medicine specifically or not. What do I mean? I mean activity. I like making potential energy become kinetic energy. So I like all the sports you can think of. I have some unique sports I practice, such as endurance unicycle, kettlebell juggling, and rocking. I also like martial arts. It gives you discipline as well. Other interests I have are reading success stories. Those are the books I like the most. Ask me about success stories. We can talk about that whenever you want. Or invite me to any new sport. You'll see me there for sure. And the third interest I have out of medicine could be this new idea. Well, not that new, but becoming more popular, which is minimalism. I believe that in order for us to take care of our planet and evolve into the 22nd century, we have to make the best out of every resource. So I learned this in medicine, but I have applied this to other areas of my life where we don't need 20 things that do the same thing. We just need one that can do the task correctly, know how to use that one, and take care of our environment. So that's something I'm looking into as well. And how do you cope? Last question is, how do you cope with stress? Okay, so everyone feels stress. Anyone that says that he or she doesn't feel stress hasn't lived enough or has bipolar disorder type 1. So that's not the case with me. I've felt stress several times in the past, and I have been able to mature my stress response based on all these experiences that have made me grown in the past. So I have learned that it's just go through it. You can do it. So whenever I'm in a stressful situation, I remember myself, I can go through this. As I said, I like success stories. I like the story from David Goggins, who is a guy that has gone through everything his mind has um, dealt with, and he shows us that it's mind over body. So, in a stressful situation, I think, what would David Goggins do? And why couldn't I do that as well? So I'll work it through and I'll appreciate the obstacle because I know that I will grow from stress. There is no growing in a pond. Sailors weren't made in a pond. So that's how I cope with stress. Those are all the questions. Thank you very much.